This is the story of how two indecisive, impatient, and impulsive individuals who are willing to try anything decide to wrap a car on their own. But just like anything in life, you can't learn something without trying it. I am so excited, guys. We've got our E36 M3 back in the shop today. If you guys recall, we bought this car from a wrecked car auction several years ago, but just last year, we got it back running and driving back on the road. And it was at the auction for several reasons, one of them being mechanical damage and the other being cosmetic. We were not expecting nearly as much of the cosmetic issues as we were presented with. This whole car has been repainted. Even though it has a clean title, seems like it was sideswiped or something, which resulted in the whole repaint. And the repaint is absolutely garbage. But that's okay. This gives us an opportunity to learn something new today. But before we can get to the good stuff of wrapping, we gotta do a lot of prep. Vinyl wrap, just like paint, requires a lot of prep work. So before I pulled the M3 into the shop, I washed it down with some dish soap to get rid of any waxes and any dirt that was on the paint. Now we could have just wrapped the car without disassembling too much, but a lot of the panels, the trim, a lot of the rubber, they were all in need of replacement, so we decided to remove it all. So this is a 95 M3 Coupe. With it being this old, and especially with the current situation with parts shortages, we're gonna try to replace as much of the stuff as we can. Hopefully, we're able to get everything. But this trim right here, you can see it's already all bent and stuff. We're just gonna try to pull it out. Hopefully we're able to salvage a lot of this stuff. That's what I'm really hoping, and it's already sounding like it's cracking. And I was gonna say don't scratch the paint, but the paint's already scratched up everywhere. So what happened, I think when they repainted it, they didn't take any of this stuff off. They just taped it off, and then there's overspray on everything, and it's bad. Yeah, this one's not even coming out on this side.
I think I might need help on this. I don't want to break it.
Let's see. It's fine if you break it. We're not going to use it.
You sure?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I can figure something out. And I just washed this car. Yeah, it's broken now. Yeah, this thing is just breaking off everywhere. So it's like a metal trim with like a rubber seal, I guess. And that's what keeps it shape. I guess that's why it was bent up in that corner. Every time that thing cracks, it sounds like the windshield's cracking, or the back glass is cracking. This is probably why they didn't take this stuff off when they painted it. This is how this first trim that I thought was going to be super easy to take out is going. We got a lot more to go. And it's off. All right, so now I need to figure out how I'm going to pull off this whole trim. I know it just snaps in place, but I think I'm going to have to remove this window first.
There goes the most expensive part of the car.
So if I bent this, which I just did, now whenever I try to put it back on, it's always gonna either have like a little warp on it, or it's just not gonna go back on right.
Because it's a pressure fit.
Yeah, because it just presses in. There's no clips or anything like that holding it in place.
I mean, we figured this was going to happen, but it would have been great to just reuse it and then buy new ones when we actually paint the car, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be one straight piece somewhat. Now it's all kinked. Like right here, yeah, that's definitely, no matter how much I try to straighten it, not gonna happen.
How much are they?
They're 150 a side. During our disassembly process, I noticed a lot of issues and a lot of missing or broken items. So I started out by ordering some seals and trim pieces, which all added up really quickly. Now I have way too many projects to be spending this kind of money on a car that we are just learning how to wrap on. But deep down, I knew that it would take much more time for me to refurbish the broken pieces than just to replace them all. Now the world works in mysterious ways, because after I placed that first order, just a couple hours later I had received an email from carparts.com. and they wanted to help out on one of our builds. Now this was perfect timing since I needed a few things for the E36, so I did go on their website and I made a whole list. I was genuinely surprised when I saw that they had all kinds of parts, from body panels to maintenance items, even performance upgrades. And get this, they even had genuine BMW parts that you could buy at the dealership. So stay tuned to see all of the new parts that are going to be going on the E36 later on in this video. Vinyl wrap is meant to stick to painted surfaces only, and usually most painted surfaces are smooth. But that was not the case for this backyard painted M3 that had sat in the sun way too long. The worst part of the paint was on the hood, which of course is one of the biggest and flattest panels on the car. We knew that the wrap was going to look terrible on this hood since the paint was chipped and there was a lot of peeling going on in a lot of spots, and it was also very, very textured. So that meant it was time for our favorite activity, sanding. Now, as you can imagine, with our impatience and impulsive traits, we stopped sanding within an hour and just jumped to the next order of business, wrapping. Well, here it is, the color we decided to go with. We are both very indecisive, so you can imagine how hard it was for us to pick a color. This is why all of our cars are white. Now, we have never seen this type of green on an E36 before and thought it would go nice with the gunmetal gray wheels, so I placed the order, quickly. Otherwise, we would still be looking at the color swatches. We had to practice on something first, so we decided to do the side skirts off camera. Trust me, the footage would have been mostly colorful language and arguing between Selena and I on who's causing all the wrinkles. But hey, we got it done and thought it would be a good idea to start cutting up pieces for the various panels on the car just to make sure that we had enough wrap.
Dropping all of our hard work. So yeah, we have everything labeled.
So we got the roof, the sides, all of that. Now we're gonna start cutting out specific sections. So on the E36, the roof and the pillars, they're seamless. There's no seam in between, there's no trim or anything like that. So we're gonna start with the door first because that whole section with the quarter panel, all that is gonna be one piece. So we're gonna try to cut this door out. It should be pretty straightforward, simple square rectangle, and then start wrapping. So we're about to clean up the door, the whole panel with some IPA, isopropyl alcohol, not beer for you guys. The door took us about an hour or so, as we were still trying to figure out how to work with the material. And it did come out pretty good, which instantly boosted our confidence. Probably a little too much. So much so that we started on the quarter panel. Now the E36 doesn't have a trim piece or roof rail that we could just use as a spot to join the quarter panel and pillar to the roof. So that was something that we needed to figure out. And as a true procrastinator, I just suggested that we can figure that out later. Well, here we are, a couple hours later, and the quarter panel is wrapped.
So one of the worst parts about the car is the hood. And so we wanted to test it out, see if we will be able to see this overspray. Even though we sanded, I don't think we sanded enough. And yeah.
I don't know, at this point, even if we sanded all the way down, to get rid of the overspray, just lifting up all of the paint. Like even right here, I lifted it all up.
We will have to repaint the car for sure once we get tired of the wrap.
Which we were gonna do anyways. That's why we didn't really spend too much time, you know, really prepping. Once again, we decided to leave that for another day and moved on to the trunk. Now, all of the hours of research I had done prior to wrapping seemed like it would just be easy enough to heat up the vinyl and stretch it over any of the curved areas. Those hours of research on TikTok did not hold up when we started wrapping the trunk. The top of the trunk came out okay, but the license plate area looked like a pug's forehead. So we had our first big screw up. We tried it, like, there's no rail on the E36, so you have to figure out a way to join two pieces of vinyl together. The whole roof is one piece, and then we put the knifeless tape right along this body line, all the way through. And yeah, that didn't work out too well. So the knifeless tape worked as far as cutting both pieces of vinyl that were stacked on top of each other, but we didn't really take into account the stretching that would happen when we lifted it up to get the other piece of vinyl out. And yeah, you can see a whole line all the way through. It doesn't help that this car is black. Since the car is black, you can really see it. So I think we're gonna take our house renovating skills that we picked up, and we're gonna just put some trim on this little body line to cover the two pieces where it joins. We still have to do the other side. Let me show you guys how it looks when we pull it off. And let me go to address the elephant in the room. I don't usually wear tanks like this because I'm not that big yet. You know, I go to the gym, but I still gotta fill this in, so that's why I'm wearing it at home. And I wasn't expecting to film this, but I guess it is what it is.
We learned we have to start a little cut there so it has something to go into.
Yeah, and so I could hold the vinyl down from right here.
But yeah, if you guys know what we did wrong, just let us know.
Yeah, seriously, if anybody does have any ideas on how to improve this. Obviously, we don't have that much more vinyl left, but for next time.
And then we peel this off. And then we have to lift this back up and take the one underneath.
Yeah. So maybe if we had already cut it perfectly, because the reason that we overlapped it like this, because I've watched some YouTube videos on people doing it with the knifeless tape, and they said to overlap it like that and put the new film on top, and then you lift the top layer up and take the remaining film out from underneath. But now that I'm looking at it, what we should have done was just cut it directly to this body line. So do one piece of knifeless tape to the body line, go ahead and lay that down, and put another piece once the vinyl's already on, so then we can cut the other layer. That way we don't have to lift it back up to get this off. Because right now it looks perfect. If we don't have to lift this up, it would be perfect. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the trick. So you don't want to have that overlap underneath. But YouTube told me otherwise. You thought I was kidding when I told you that we were impatient, impulsive, and indecisive? Guess what? I wasn't. After that debacle of the roof vinyl not lining up properly with the quarter panel and pillar, we called it a day. Or actually, should I say a month? Nah, let's just make it 6 months. Over the last 6 months, we worked on a lot of other projects, while parts started accumulating for the E36. Most of them from carparts.com. Now here's a quick glimpse of a few things that happened during the break from the E36. So we couldn't put off the E36 any longer. It was time to get back to wrapping. It's a good thing though, since it's cold now, and you will likely never have to see me in a muscle tank with no muscles again. Don't worry, I'm not gonna make you watch me open boxes all day. We have lights, fender liners, fender, bumper, and even a whole new nose. Now this type of plastic surgery would surely cost an arm and a leg, but trust me, you can get some good deals on carparts.com. So whatever you drive, BMW or not, check them out next time you need something. Let's get back to wrapping. We really do need to get this done, otherwise it might end up being muscle shirt season again. Now one thing I really did want to address was the hood on this car. It's been repainted multiple times, it's got a lot of dings and dents, and the paint's literally just peeling off, and it's gonna be really hard to wrap. But nobody has that hood in stock. I literally found one on eBay, and it didn't look like it was that good of a quality. Even the reviews were pretty bad. We might have to sand it down, or we might just send it as it is. But we do have all these other panels that we need to start wrapping first so we can start reassembling the car. A lot of these new panels are either coated with what's called an E-coat or some kind of primer. Now, I really wanted to see if the wrap is going to stick to it, so we're just going to go ahead and wrap it without painting it, because there's no point in me painting any of these items right now, since whenever we pull off the wrap, we're going to be painting the car or wrapping it again. I am curious to see how it holds up out in the sun and in the elements. Since the panels are already coated, it should be corrosion resistant, so I guess we'll see whenever we pull the wrap off. It is definitely much harder to wrap some of these panels off of the car just because it's not held in securely. This might actually just be the hardest panel to wrap on this entire car, the front bumper. It's got so many tight curves, it's got a lip built into it as well. I did do the inlays first, that way we can just wrap over it, just in case if we're not able to get the film to sit in those crevices properly. But even then, trying to wrap this bumper in one piece just took forever. We had to stretch it a lot, and it probably would have been a smart idea to go with multiple pieces. But now we're going to see, how it holds up. This is like the one panel that we actually really did have to use heat to stretch the film. Now, ideally, you don't really want to heat up the film too much to stretch it, because once again, when it heats up outside with the sun, chances are it's going to pull back to its original shape and form. And that's probably going to cause bubbles and probably cause wrinkles and all that stuff to form down the road. Sometimes things just don't go your way. And that was the case with this hood. Looks like we are going to have to sand this hood down. But at least this time we're going to use some tools to get the job done quicker. Now, I haven't really given any tips throughout this entire video, since I want to save those for the next video where we actually finish wrapping and putting the car back together. Now, trust me, we have learned a lot and have quite a few tips and tricks that might help someone who wants to wrap their own car at home. Hope you guys enjoyed this video though. I can't wait to see you all in the next one.